I think we can definitely agree that the ending to the episode has got to be the best ending ever! Oh my god! Star Platinum Kick Steely Dan's going, oh no 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 no, this is so awesome! Sorry. Yeah, the episode was good. To my review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders episode 17, the conclusion to the Lovers two-parter. This episode was definitely way better than the previous one. I really liked it. Mostly because of the ending, but that's besides the point. Now the episode began with Steely Dan ordering Jotaro to scratch his back, which he does so because, well, he doesn't have much of a choice, apparently, and, well, Joseph feels something tickling his back, which was Jotaro scratching Steely Dan's back. He can't help but scream and yell. We even get another, oh no! In fact, in the previous episode, we got an, oh my god! Which I forgot to mention in the previous episode. I'm sorry about that. And this causes quite a commotion with the crowd as many people, like, stare and look at Joseph and Kakyoin and Polnareff, and they assumed that Joseph was their older relative and they felt sorry for them, so they started, like, giving them change, giving them money. It was kind of funny and kind of sad in a way. So they had no choice but to buy the TV. I wonder if they took the change that the civilians gave them. Now here's the thing that kind of got me a bit confused, but apparently Steely Dan was aware that Heirophant Green and Silver Chariot were going after the Lovers. He said that he can see it, yet I recalled in the Ebony Devil episode when Polnareff was trying to fight against Ebony Devil, he was under the bed and Silver Chariot was above it, so he couldn't see what was going on, meaning that Silver Chariot was kind of fighting blind against Ebony Devil, yet Steely Dan said that he could see it, so he was aware of what was going on. Maybe this is because it's a special kind of stand, like with Nana and the Empress, where the Empress would act on its own in a way, even though it's still attached to its stand user, so maybe it's something like that. I think the Lovers and the Empress are a similar type. I know there are different types of stands, so maybe they share the same type, I'm not sure. Polnareff and Joseph carry the TV to this nearest tower. Joseph uses Hermit Purple to project the images inside his brain onto the TV as Heirophant Green and Silver Chariot make it to the brain stem. Oh, they spot the creepy parasite, the Lovers, but they also spot the tentacles coming from the flesh bud. This thing was growing pretty fast, so it makes you wonder like how much time has passed. Now we actually learned how the Lovers was growing the flesh bud. Apparently it was using its claw things to knead Joseph's brain cells into gooey mush so it could feed the mushy brain cells to the flesh bud, causing it to grow. I'm assuming this is also the same thing that the Lovers did with Enya. By the way, thank you guys for telling me that it was Steely Dan that planted the flesh bud, not Dio, because that actually did make more sense to me, so thank you for that. So with no time to spare, the group attacks. First off is Silver Chariot, as it tries to slice the Lovers, or as Polnareff says, grate it like daikon radish. However, even though this thing is the weakest stand in terms of physical strength, thank you guys for telling me that, by the way, it was still capable of holding on its own, but it did create an opening for Silver Chariot to at least slice it on the head, which for a minute there it seemed like it kind of worked, but from what Polnareff, or I guess you can say Silver Chariot, but it's actually Polnareff's voice emitting from Silver Chariot, from what he said, this stand was pretty fast, so we got ourselves another fast stand right here. And that cut wasn't really enough to take it down, but since it knows how it moves, he can probably take it down easily. At least that's what he said to Heirophant Green, but the thing is, there was another Heirophant Green on the opposite direction. Yeah, it turns out the Heirophant Green he was talking to was actually the Lovers in disguise. You know, that's the second time Heirophant Green was disguised by the enemy. So how did the Lovers disguise itself as Heirophant Green? Well, apparently he used Joseph's brain cells to disguise itself. And this was actually a copy of the Lovers. The Lovers that they kept before was also another copy as its body was breaking down. So the Lovers took this as an advantage, the confusion of course, to punch Silver Chariot very hard, causing him to cough up blood. You know, I thought the stand wasn't the strong strongest in terms of physical strength, but I guess since their stands are smaller now, it can easily harm Polnareff? I don't know. Meanwhile, Steely Dan was aware of what's going on and he's just in a happy mood laughing his ass off while Jotaro was shining his shoes. Yeah, he's making him shine his shoes, but he kicks him in the face because he was doing it wrong. However, Jotaro gets up and he writes something on this notebook that he has, which Steely Dan just snatches it from his hand, and it was a list of all the things that Steely Dan made Jotaro do. So why is Jotaro writing all this down? Well, it's because he can be forgetful sometimes, so he wants to remember all the things that Steely Dan owes him. This causes Steely Dan to get really pissed off as he backhands Jotaro in the face. Well, that is definitely going on the list. Honestly, throughout this episode, I was actually really anticipating Jotaro's payback on Steely Dan, and honestly, I was not unsatisfied with it, but I'll get to that later. And meanwhile, back at Joseph's brain, the Lover's copy that Silver Chariot cut was starting to turn into like 2 more copies of the Lovers. Apparently, if Silver Chariot or Heirophant Green attack a copy or the dummy of the Lovers, any piece that is cut off from its body will just regrow into another Lover's. And it's like cutting off a Hydra's head and 2 more start to regrow. Now, the Lovers actually brought up a reference to the fable, The Tortoise and the Hare, saying that the tortoise won because it was aware of its abilities. But if I recall from that story, the reason why the tortoise won was because the hare was full of himself and was kind of cocky. He underestimated his opponent, just like what Steely Dan did, but I'll get to that later. Everything begins once you've acknowledged your own weaknesses. Heirophant Green tries to attack more of the copies of the Lovers, assuming that one of them has to be the real one. But no, they were all copies of Joseph's brain cells, creating more copies of the Lovers. And now they gotta deal with an army of creepy parasites. And poor Polnareff was the only one getting hurt. And Joseph was telling him to like withdraw his stand and he doesn't want him to die. And it looked like he was gonna give up. Like there was like not much time left, but Kakyoin tells him don't give up until the very end. So now they realized that they have to find the real stand and not attack any more of the copies because time was running out. Now as for the Lovers, honestly, the way it was acting kind of gave off a creepy vibe, but it was actually kind of a bit funny. It was when the Lovers was saying, the weakest of all is also the most terrifying. It kept repeating most over and over and over again for almost 20 seconds, and I gotta give kudos to Davis Productions with the animation and the artwork and the music in this one, because it kind of made the scene kind of creepy in a way. But it was kind of funny when most of the copies started doing a pose, and with a couple of the Lovers using their eyes as spotlights. Meanwhile, back with Steely Dan and Jotaro, Steely Dan is forcing Jotaro to steal this bracelet at a jewelry store they're in, but using a Star Platinum. But just when the bracelet was in Jotaro's hand, Steely Dan rats him out! He tells the owner of the jewelry store that Jotaro was shoplifting! And the reason why he ratted him out was so that not only Jotaro can get his ass kicked by these 3 security guards, but it was also to steal this necklace. Yeah, all that just to steal a necklace. Steely Dan's an asshole. And of course Jotaro can't fight back because he can't use his stand against civilians. All the while Steely Dan was laughing his ass off, but that smirk was wiped out of his face when Jotaro starts laughing. Yeah, Jotaro was laughing. If I was Steely Dan, I would take this as a bad sign. Now the reason why Jotaro was laughing is because he's excited and he's looking forward to the moment that he pays Steely Dan back. Now Steely Dan gets pissed and has his like foot slamming on Jotaro's back, saying that you seem to misunderstand, old man Joestar is going to die within seconds. But Jotaro then says, nah, you don't know us very well. You don't know Kakyoin. Now that moment when Jotaro said that about Kakyoin, I knew, you knew, that Kakyoin has a plan. He's got an ace up his sleeve, and it is this. He unravels the appendages of Heirophant Green's legs, attaches each one to all of the Lovers, inspecting each one to see which one was the actual stand and not a copy of Joseph's brain cells. And it seems that Steely Dan does not know his enemies very well. He did not do his research. You mean to tell me that he didn't like do his research on the group? On Star Platinum, on Heirophant Green, on Hermit Purple, on Silver Chariots? He just went off blind, oblivious to what his enemies' abilities were? This guy's a fucking idiot! I mean, throughout the previous episodes, we've seen many stand users facing off against Jotaro and the others, and they knew what their stands do. This guy didn't? Really? Now I'm gonna move on to a tangent tangent of these minions. Okay, to be fair, these minions so far, they're the ones that not only Dio sent out, but they're also who Enya sent out as well. And you know, the more I think about it, I think Enya was not very smart, considering of all the people, all the stand users that she's been sending out to deal with Jotaro and the others. Now granted, they've had encountered some close calls, even if you recall episode 10, but honestly, episode 10 was actually the moment where the stand users from Dio's side came off as a threat. But that was because you had Whole Horse and Jay Gao working together. And to be honest, most of these minions just come off as minions of the week. And I know that they're just a bunch of hired assassins, and they were close to like nearly killing some of these guys. But apparently this group is a lot smarter than them because they at least come up with a way to get themselves out of these sticky messes. And the more I think about it, some of these minions actually don't try again to attack Jotaro and the others. Well, some stand users actually do, but they get screwed later on in the end. Yeah, I'm actually hoping that afterwards we're gonna get to see some capable minions or capable hired assassins from Dio's side that at least are an actual threat. I mean, we got some that are a threat, but at the end of the day, they get taken down like within an episode or two. If this keeps up, I'm gonna question what was Dio thinking hiring these guys. Or in this case, Enya, in a way. So, but anyway, back with the episode. I guess Heirophant Green can distinguish the difference between a brain cell copy and a stand because he found this actual stand and uses Emerald Splash on the real stand, hits him right in the head, which causes blood to squirt out from Steely Dan's head too, which is neat. So knowing that the lovers was screwed, it escapes from Jotaro's brain out through the ear. For the third time, the Ripple, the Overdrive, as Joseph uses it to destroy the flesh bud in his brain. Wait a minute, why didn't he do that earlier? Like, okay, it's great, it's cool and all that we get to see the Ripple again, that's great, but he could have done that earlier. I mean, what was stopping him? I mean, was it the lovers? Because, like, what the hell could the lovers do? It was just kneading those brain cells into mush to feed the flesh bud. He just could have used Overdrive, boom, done. And even if the lovers tried to like plant another flesh bud, he could just do Overdrive, boom, done. Like, what the hell? I mean, okay, that was great and all, but why didn't you do that sooner? Well, at least we got to see the Ripple again. That's awesome. That's good, I guess. But however, since they realized that the lovers was escaping, heading back towards Steely Dan, they just realized that Jotaro was in trouble because he has no idea. As for Steely Dan himself, and he starts begging Jotaro for forgiveness, which I will admit it was kind of funny, but it was all a ruse, just so that he could buy some time for the lovers to enter Jotaro's brain. But yeah, as I said before, this guy was an idiot because he did not do his research. Star Platinum has super enhanced eyesight and quick reflexes, and just like what he did with that bullet in episode 1, he was able to catch the lovers right between his thumb and index finger. And because of the pressure that he was applying onto the lovers, it breaks his arm and his leg. Now, Jotaro says that he'll accept his broken arm and leg as payment, and he makes Steely Dan swear to never appear from their sight ever again. Otherwise, if he sees him again, he's gonna punch him 1,000 times. So Jotaro frees the lovers, and it was about to leave as he turns around. But Steely Dan notices this girl, so at least I'll give kudos to him because he's trying to at least try again to attack Jotaro. At least he's trying to find an opening, an advantage. I mean, like with Rubber Soul, I'll give kudos for that just this once. So yeah, he threatens Jotaro by using this little girl as a scapegoat, as he said that the lovers entered into her brain, and he tells him not to move, so he'll stab him in the back with this knife that he pulled out. But Jotaro just turns around and says, yada yada yada. Fine, try it. It's like he wasn't even phased or anything. And then the realization hits Steely Dan, and apparently he can't move. How could he not move? Well, good old Kakyoin came through once again as he used one of the appendages from Heirophant Green that he attached to the original lovers from earlier, and it managed to wrap and bind the lovers while he was inside the little girl's ear. So Steely Dan and the lovers were oblivious to one of Kakyoin's appendages attached onto its leg, and he only realized sooner when the appendage bound him while he was inside the little girl's ear. Steely Dan, you are a fucking idiot. How do you not notice that? He did not What's wrong? Weren't you gonna stab me like this? As he grabs his hand and redirects the knife and stabs Steely Dan in the face. That has gotta hurt. So once again, Steely Dan asks Jotaro for forgiveness. He offers him some money, the money that Dio paid him in advance. But Jotaro is like, yada yada. You truly are the lowest scum in history. You can't pay back what you owe with money. And then Star Platinum appears, and then we get the beatdown of a lifetime. It was so fucking awesome, and it was a really long one too. 22 seconds. I'm not kidding, that beatdown lasted for like 22 seconds. And I looked at that page in the manga after doing the reaction, and apparently this goes on for 3 pages in the manga. God damn, Steely Dan got beaten down so hard, and it was awesome. So hard, in fact, that he was sent flying to the nearest brick wall right through. Yeah, I'd like to think that he's dead because 22 seconds with Star Platinum! Things get more badass when Jotaro writes his signature on his piece of paper, pulls it out of his notebook, and he's like, here's the receipt. And he just walks away, and that was where the episode ends. Oh my god, I loved it! I loved it! So, that is episode 17 of Stardust Crusaders. This episode was way better than last week's episode. A really good one. The voice acting, once again, was really good. I especially like the voice actor for Steely Dan. I think he did a really good job. I think he also did the voice for Lovers, because if he did, he did a really good job in there too. Animation and artwork were, once again, was pretty good as always. The OST, once again, good as always, but the best part of the episode, honestly, was the Star Platinum beatdown. It was so satisfying. It was so good. This is probably one of the best beatdowns Star Platinum has done ever in this anime. And maybe not until we get to Dio's fight, which is gonna be quite a while. It's like seeing a character you despise so much, not just in anime, but in TV shows, movies, or even in your favorite books. Hearing or like seeing this character being such a despicable little prick, and you want something bad to happen to him, and it does, and it gives you this it gives you a very nice happy feeling. It really does. I wonder if this is how Game of Thrones fans felt when that happened during the Purple Wedding. There were some problems though in this episode, like for example with Joseph using overdrive. I mean, it was great seeing the Ripple or the Hamon again, but it felt like he could have just done it sooner. I was questioning a bit of how Heirophant Green was able to distinguish a stand with a brain cell copy, but that, I guess, it's easy to determine. That's for sure, so I'm gonna let that slide. I was a bit bummed out that Silver Chariots and Polnareff were the only ones that were getting hurt in this episode, aside from Jotaro. But, you know, aside from that, overall, this was a very enjoyable, really good episode, especially with the way it ended. I really loved it. I think the stand, the Lovers, is interesting. Even though it is weak in physical strength, it has a couple of tricks up its sleeve, which I thought was pretty neat. It's a very dangerous one, that's for sure, but Steely Dan comes off as a pompous prick, an asshole, and a dumbass for not doing his research on the other stand users that he was gonna fight. And you know, even though he did have his own multi-parter, he still comes off as a minion of the week. He does have a bit more of a personality, unlike some of them, but at the end of the day, now next week's episode is going to be called The Sun, and I heard this was going to be a very short one. Not only that, but I also heard that something very hilarious happens. So I'm actually looking forward to next week's episode because I love to laugh, especially when it's Jojo, so I'm looking forward to next week's episode. So the episode is now out on Crunchyroll. I'll leave a link in the description down below. And tell me guys, what are your thoughts on this week's episode of Stardust Crusaders? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Were you satisfied with what happened to Steely Dan at the end of the episode? And what did you think of Steely Dan and the Lovers overall? Yeah, leave your thoughts and opinions on the comment section down below. Like the video if you like it, and subscribe to more videos, and be sure to check out my Facebook fan page and Google Plus and the reaction video on Daily Motion. So yeah, that is Stardust Crusaders episode 17. Best beatdown ever. I freaking love Star Platinum. It was awesome. I'm gonna spell 27 and I'll see you guys later. Bye.